Well, hello everyone. Welcome to this episode. This is our
Grand finale
last episode
of this season.
We're excited to share with you. Thank you for taking of your busy time, busy schedule to join us in the next few minutes.
What
we
a
are
cool
honored.
What a cool mark that we've gotten to an end of a season. And thank you for questions. Thank you for the comments, for the encouragement. That's what we're here for, to bring the knowledge that we've acquired, what God has given us, so that you guys can have better relationships. And today, to celebrate the closure of this season, we decided to just bring an infusion of hope, like a heavy dose of
infusion
hope.
of hope.
Yes.
I love that.
So there's different episodes that we spoke about different things: codependency, sex addictions, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to highlight 3 cases of people that have come out of those places and that have recovered and are doing well. We've shared some other people and you probably have seen someone on the TV programs, on different platforms, but we chose these ones in particular because of what we've shared during this season.
Correct. So we're going to start with a very particular case. It's a person who came out of a cycle of codependency and ended up actually adopting destructive behaviors.
Addictive Codependency made her an addict.
And in a way, it was kind of almost like living on a survival mode. Mm-hmm. I need to survive. I need to escape this prison, because that's what codependency makes you feel. And we break it down more in an episode called Codependency. So you can, if you haven't watched it yet, yeah. But it's incredible what those cycles produce in the heart and the mind of someone. She's escaping from a prison, but yet she's entrapped in a new kind of prison.
Yes, and yet there are cases that we've shared before that the root causes rely on childhood issues, brokenness from being a little girl, being abused. But in this particular case, actually, it was as an adult, a relationship in which she was for a long time that was abusive and that had abusive psychologically and emotionally. Yes. There was never physical abuse, but there was a lot of addiction in that partner.
Right.
So being in that environment and subjected to all of what that means created this codependency in her to the point that she needed to self-medicate and became a sex addict herself.
In this particular case, she was under a lot of fear in that relationship. We're not getting into details, but all this fear created that escape that ended up being in another pattern of behaviors that just led to her feeling hopeless. She got to the point where she was no longer wanting to be alive. She did not want to be in this earth.
And then some of the things that, you may be identifying with being at a place that you feel stuck and that you feel this is just too much. And it's like all of a sudden, it's like, oh my gosh, what's happening in my marriage or what's happening in this relationship? Well, you're not too late. Like this case, and we're grateful that she realized this marriage is not bringing meaning. This relationship needs to be challenged, and she reached out for help. And of course, we're always honored when people choose to work with us. And through that journey, to see her emerge, to see the true self come out, what God intended for that life.
Beautiful things came out of that process. She ended up actually going back to school, getting tools,
retaking her life
to actually help now so many different people that are struggling probably with similar situations.
Yes.
So out of a hopeless case, a lot of light came. So we're grateful for that.
So if you are at a place that you feel you're stuck, don't be. There's hope. You can engage in a process today. You can start journey towards health today. But we have a couple of other cases that are like crazy.
The second case that came to our minds is we called it broken and shattered. So this lady had been married for over 30 years, only to find out that her husband had been unfaithful over 100 times.
Yes, over
So,
100. You heard right. It's not
over
a Spanish
100.
like thing. We don't know numbers.
It's not lost in
100,
translation.
1, 0, and 0.
So imagine, and this is the best way we can describe when you get married, you come with all this expectancy, you come with all this illusion that this is something, the dream of your life is coming to pass. And finally, you get married with someone that you feel that when you discover things like this, of this nature, it's like you have never known this person.
Well, did they ever love me? Like, what was this about from the beginning? Just, you doubt everything.
So many different aspects to consider from a betrayal. So she came, they both came seeking for help.
Wow.
She had been a believer for
Yes.
praying earnestly, unceasingly for her husband to get to the truth, to know the truth.
She started working on her trauma and, all the feelings and issues that the discovery phase found, but the marriage was untouched. And she was a believer and he was not. And that's why it's so important that even though we are a Christian practice, we rely heavily on scripture and on the guidance of the Holy Spirit, we don't necessarily are explicit about that content or about those strategies and ways in our practice, so that those who are not believers can come and be exposed to truth
And feel comfortable too.
Yes.
Like we're not going to be preachy.
Yes.
We're trying to help bring stability on in the middle of this brokenness. We're trying to bring hope and build up a marriage that is no longer in existence.
And
That's how they came. This is nothing. I cannot rely. I cannot trust.
Yeah.
I'm not giving myself anymore.
But she still had that little ray of light. She
course.
still had that little, come on, God, like, you can come through. I mean, I know this is big. And you know what? That was a big stretch. But she believed and she made that first step. And the good thing is that he realized how terrible he had been. So he complied to coming. And I'll never forget the day that I saw this man crying and Jorge telling me he accepted Jesus just now in the office.
Yes.
And that was one of the highlights of our career, I think,
Well, we'll see. We see. That was probably one of the first cases where
Yes.
the whole transformation took place before our own eyes. We saw him coming from distance and coldness in that relationship, carelessness,
and pride,
to actually becoming humble, admitting to his fault, and reaching out, pursuing that wife like there was no tomorrow.
And
So
today,
oh my goodness.
today, which
It's
is part of
beautiful
their
process.
tomorrow, back then, they are doing great. They are doing amazing. God has restored. God has brought joy. God has brought dreams. And they're not in their 20s. I mean, they were already a mature couple, but it is so beautiful to see them become a new marriage, with new goals and everything in life.
Beautiful.
So if you are experiencing a relationship where you feel, you know what, this is a serial adulterer, there's an addiction to being unfaithful here, this is not going to change. God has the last word.
There is hope, Denisa. There is hope. We've seen it day in, day out. We've seen the hope that comes from the impossible.
Yes.
God makes it work somehow. So we're grateful to be instruments in his hands.
So the third
I think
case
we have
we're
time
celebrating.
for one more case.
Yes.
One more case. This is a couple that came from a very difficult past. They had been exposed to a leadership that robbed away the life out of their marriage.
Well,
Believe
she
it or
already
not.
had some issues from childhood with abuse, with, power, physical, crossing of boundaries, a lot of stuff that she was already carrying through and that brought into the marriage. And then
there was some codependency too.
Yes.
Because the cycles turn into people pleasing. Oh my gosh, I need to do anything they ask. So that's why we are so
redeem
strong.
herself.
That's why
To
we are
become
strong,
good.
explaining and teaching about codependency cycles and any other cycle that might be destructive and a threat to the relationship.
Yes.
So they came out of that, living out of those cycles, experiencing firsthand the relationship became so cold, so unexisting. They were looking for help. And then they came to our center, and
Yes.
and it was like, and all these couples, by the way, they go through processes of intensive clinics that we even talk about those in
other
in the
episodes.
other episodes. But this time allowed us to really get into the heart, understanding their needs, what they were going through, their struggles, and providing the tools that they needed to overcome all these different cycles. So
Yes.
breaking the spiritual and emotional oppression of leadership. And with this, by the way, we don't want to imply that churches are bad.
No, they just had
none
a
of that.
specific case.
But
for
there's
that.
some leadership styles that actually are driven to suck away your life, and they take away, even the desire that people bring to serve God and to be healthy.
One of the key elements in all of these cases has been the fact that you can intensively attack the issues so that you can go deep in without interruptions. Like
Right.
time is not necessarily a limit. We're not cutting, we're not ending until we get to the bottom of some of these issues. And in fact, we've created, we offer not only the intensive clinics so that we can, cover and work through some of these therapeutic needs, but an e-course on codependency, attachments, and setting limits. And the entire e-course is available, through our website. Why? Because sometimes we forget that these limits need to be a little farther, or that these limits need to be a little closer to protect who we are. And that the setting of limits is never a threat to a relationship. That's why we use all of these strategies. That's why we've created all of these resources, so that we can save the relationship at the same time that we're establishing healthier patterns for relating, for what we take from each other, for what we accept, and what we are going to decide not to accept anymore.
So I think it's called like attachment, codependency, and boundaries, something like that.
the e-course, yeah.
And the beautiful thing is that it's all available at our website. So you
Yes.
can go right now, after you finish this, go and check out the website. It's ccicounseling.com, ccicounseling.com. And there you're going to find not only this e-course, but many other resources that are there provided for you to help you excel and thrive through your relationship, understanding that there's hope. God brings
hope.
beauty out of
that.
ashes.
Yes.
Beauty out of ashes. And we are promoters of this truth, and we'll never stop.
Yes.
That's why we exist.
Thank you for sticking with us for an entire season.
See you next time. Ciao, ciao.